Morning. I'd like to go ahead and get started because I know your time is valuable, as is all of ours. I'd like to thank you for coming out this morning. It's kind of early on a Tuesday morning, 8:30. Most of us probably aren't even quite awake yet. My name is Randy Sessions. I'm the chair of the Alternative Service Committee. There's a couple things I'd like to do just kind of as housekeeping. First thing I'd like to do is thank the committee members that have been meeting together every 2 weeks, at least for the main committee meeting, and more frequently than that for the subcommittees. For the last 8 months, these people have put in a tremendous amount of time and effort to get this proposal put together to the point of where it is. I'd also like to thank Mary Herron's office for all the work that they did in preparing this. Any of the paperwork, any of the mailings, any of the stuff that's cost us money has gone through her office. And she and her staff have done a tremendous job in allowing us to provide the information to you. I'd like to thank the President and his office for making sure that he had the time to meet with us, not only for these 3 town hall meetings, but for the interim meetings where we met with him to discuss this proposal. During this presentation, and it's not going to be real long, I'd ask that you hold your questions. Once the presentation is done, we'll have a panel up here, and you'll be free to answer or ask any questions of them that you desire. The thing that I'd ask is, if you know who can answer your question, or if you have a question directed specifically towards one person, please do so, direct it towards them. That way it makes it a little bit easier for us to know who's going to answer. The Alternative Service Committee, hopefully by now you know what it is. It's just a group of employees that have been put together, and we are not all classified that are on that committee. There is some unclassified professional staff members on that committee, but the bulk of the committee is made up of classified employees. And those classified employees are the only ones that had a vote in any of the decision-making process during this committee period. The unclassified are there for support and making things easier for us to get into offices and to get things done. If you have more questions about this committee and the process, please visit the wichita.edu/ASC. All of our minutes are there. Committee member names are there. Contact information is there. There's also a resource page that will allow you to go see what the other universities have done. There's 6 universities within the Regent system. We're the last ones to take a vote on this process. The other 5 have already moved away from the classified system within the state of Kansas and are moving towards the university support staff system. Our goal was to develop a process, a proposal, and you have that in front of you today. That's the proposal that we are going to go with. For the most part, there's been a few changes, and we'll address those. And those changes have come about because of these last 2 meetings we've had. And we're not opposed to changes. This is not a final draft. A final draft will be presented, and you will be given access to that prior to a vote. The vote starts 2 weeks from today. This is a Kansas statute, 76-715A, that addresses this particular instance, allowing us to process this move and to try to move away from the state civil service system if that's what you decide you want to do. Very first line up there is, you shall retain all health and flexible benefits. Leave and retirement. That pretty much says it all. You're not going to lose your leave, you're not going to lose your vacation, you're not going to lose your sick leave, you're not going to lose your health insurance, and you're not going to lose your retirement. Due to this move, and by this law, CAPERS is going to be CAPERS. You're going to stay with CAPERS. You're not going to be given an option to go to TIA-CREF. You're not going to be forced to go to TIA-CREF. You will maintain your CAPERS. Your sick leave will stay the same. Any of your health insurance options will stay the same. We aren't suggesting any of that be moved. We don't have the power to change any of that. Now, it says leave up there too, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We are making some proposals on the leave, but we'll get into that as we get into the actual options. The second item up there is, we shall develop a plan. Now, that plan is what you have in front of you. It's the proposal, the white papers that in the bigger packet that you have. So I would encourage you all to read through those and see if there's anything that concerns you, and if so, please let us know. The third item there is no salary reduction or layoff. There is no suggested or proposed layoff or furlough in the future of this university, and there will be no salary reductions. So as a result of this move, if it happens, you're not going to lose any money. You'll stay at least where you are. The last item there, some of you, if you're with the physical plant or with the police department, you have some negotiated agreements with the union those will remain intact. The only way that those can or will change is if one or both parties request of the other a meeting to renegotiate. And those are a limited term. They do expire, and at the expiration date, they do have to be renegotiated. Okay, this is hopefully the meat of this meeting today, is what are our recommendations. The very first thing we want to talk about is appeals and discipline. If you are familiar with the appeals and discipline process, you know that it can take a long time. But we're recommending, and there is in your packet a flow chart that shows what our recommended process is. The recommendation is that it take no longer than 32 working days. Now, if you're filing a grievance and you have witnesses that have intimate knowledge of what your grievance is, you can call as many witnesses as you like, as long as they have first-hand knowledge. And if you call 20 witnesses because they all have first-hand knowledge, this 32 days could stretch out. If you only call 1 or 2, we're going to be limited to 32 days. And that's for the entire process, not just for one step in that process. Human Resources will assist you in preparing your grievance process and helping you step through it and find the right way to do things. The final authority with this grievance process will rest at the vice presidential level. If you don't like what's said at the vice presidential level, you have the option to seek outside assistance at your expense. Layoffs and furloughs. Again, like I stated, there is no planned layoff or furlough for the university. However, we do have to have something in place. The recommendation at this point is, if possible, that we increase the days notice. So we're looking at 45 days for layoffs and 60 days for furloughs, and that's if possible. There may be instances where that's not possible for the administration to do that. But that is our recommendation, that if it is possible, that time be given so that you have the opportunity to seek either other employment or to make arrangements for being off work, or in the case of a layoff, hoping to find something else within the university where you have bumping rights or something that's open. We've realigned the tie-breaking system. We've just made it cleaner. There was a lot to it, and it's been cleaned up so that you can understand it a little bit easier and better. Again, Human Resources will provide any assistance to you that's needed, and then bumping rights will be extended across the entire university. Performance evaluations, we're changing the date, or recommending that the date be changed from October 1st to March 1st. This was a request that came from Mary Herron's office so that we could use performance evaluations in the future for merit-based pay raises. Having them in October is a little far away from the budget process and the beginning of that process, so moving them to March will make it easier for her office to take a look at who's getting raises, how much the raises are, where the raises are going, and get the finances figured out just a little bit better. There will be new training given to supervisors. The recommendation is that the form that's currently being used be tossed out, and that a new form be brought in, and that new form would be similar to what the unclassified professional staff use currently, with modifications to fit our needs. The form that we currently use is one that's used statewide and doesn't necessarily fit what we do here. The next step down there is supervisors will be held accountable, and there is work in progress to ensure that supervisors are trained and that they know that this is part of their responsibility, and they will be held accountable if they don't give evaluations. The last item down there, we're going to recommend that we keep the 6-month probationary period, but we allow supervisors in need to extend that out to a 12-month period. One of the instances that was brought up was police officers, when they're hired, have to go to training that sometimes takes them beyond that 6-month probationary period, and that period needs to be extended. So we're recommending that we allow a 6-month extension to the original 6 months. Compensation and pay. Annual increases, when available, will be given at the same level as faculty and unclassified staff. The longevity is going away, is the recommendation, and the state is looking at taking it away anyway. Those of you that were hired after fiscal year 2008 are not eligible for a longevity bonus as it is. The state has 2 bills on the floor right now that are recommending taking it away from those people that already have it. So if you're currently getting a longevity bonus, on your anniversary, the state's looking at taking that completely away from you. So in essence, you're looking at a paid loss if they have their way. So our recommendation is that we take the bonus that you're currently getting and we roll that into your base salary. So if you're getting $600 as a bonus, that would be divided out by 2,080, which is the number of hours you work per year. And then that increase would be added to your hourly income. And we'll go over that a little bit later. I've got a slide that hopefully will explain that somewhat better. All employees are going to be moved to what we're calling a unified system of vacation. So right now the unclassified faculty are making 6.77 hours of vacation per pay period. Our recommendation is that we all move to that 6.77 hours per pay period. If you've been here 10 years or more, you're now making 6.7 hours of vacation per pay period, so it's not going to mean a significant increase to you, but if you've been here less than that, you will be making more if this recommendation passes, and that will start July 1st. You'll be able to accrue up to 176 hours per year. That's the maximum accrual because of the limit on the hours per pay period, but you'll still be able to bank 304 hours of vacation before you start losing any. Tuition assistance right now, the rec is set at 5 credit hours per semester, or per fiscal year, I believe. And there is a limitation on other sources of income. So you get the tuition assistance from the university, you cannot apply for grants or scholarships. Our recommendation is to move that 5 hours up to 6 hours, which would allow you to take 2 3-hour classes, and to remove the limitation of seeking other financial gain. So we're recommending lifting the number of hours, plus allowing you to seek scholarships and grants to help pay for any educational expenses. Employees on this campus currently working second and third shift are receiving a 30-cent an hour shift differential. Our recommendation is, because that is so low at this point, and because it's much higher if you look at industry nationwide, and because it hasn't been raised in at least as long as I've been here, we're recommending that second shifters be taken to 60 cents an hour, a 30-cent an hour raise, and that third shifters be taken to 75 cents an hour, a 45-cent an hour raise. Along with that, those of you that are receiving the trades at the physical plant that are receiving the retention incentive of 30 cents an hour, we're recommending that that stay in place. So there will be no loss of income for anybody at this point. Okay, this is a longevity proposal broken down into steps to hopefully make it a little bit easier to understand. We're going to look at a grade 21, step 14. That person makes $19.16 an hour. Annual salary is $39,852. With the proposal, if somebody's been here 15 years and they're in that grade and step, they would get $600 on their anniversary. So if we break that down by the 2080, as I stated before, that comes to 29 cents an hour increase. The new salary would be $19.45 an hour. However, that $19.45 takes you in between steps. And at this point, we'll be maintaining the step pay scale until we come up with a new one. So since you're between steps, you'd be moved up to step 15, which would be $19.65. So essentially, you're making a 49-cent an hour, or having a 49-cent an hour increase, because you're not going to be between steps. You'll be moved up to the next higher. So the annual change for that would be $419. Now, you're saying, okay, $419 versus $600. Well, that $419 is from now on. The $600 is just now. And that's if the legislature lets us keep it. Our recommendation allows you to make more money rather than lose money. If you want to discuss this a little bit further, you can call Mary Herron's office at 3030, and you can make an appointment with either Mary herself or with Ellen Abbey, and they'll actually sit down with you and take some time and go over this individually with you and actually put numbers into a spreadsheet and print off a sheet that will show you exactly what this would mean to you.
What about for half-time people?
Ellen, can you?
You'll still be half-time, I mean, but
Right.
you get the full longevity.
Okay, because that 29 cents an hour is for full-time people.
Right, and
Mine would be-
now you still get the full longevity. You still will.
The vote starts 2 weeks from today, If you want to do it on your own from your desktop computer, computer at home, computer while you're on vacation, any place that you've got access to the internet, you can log in to mywsu.wichita.edu. Once you get there, click on the Faculty Staff tab, and on the left-hand side, click on Tools. And under Tools, you'll see, okay, you might have to correct me again, Jeannie, on the terminology, classified/USS vote. Is that right? Once you click on that, it'll take you to a link to vote, and it'll be either a yes or a no. I'm not sure exactly what the terminology will be at this point, but it'll be pretty simple. And it'll be a yes, I want to do it, or no, I don't want to do it. Once you've done that, you won't be allowed to vote again. This will be a one-shot thing. If you try to do it again, you'll come up with a page that says, you've already voted, sorry about that, log out. If you don't have access to a computer and you need assistance logging in, or you just need a computer that you can log into, here's the dates and times. On April 30th from 9 a.m. to noon, the RSC room 142. If you're at the physical plant, you want to vote there 1 to 4:45 in the conference room. On May 1st, 8 to 10, RSC 256. And again, 1 to 4:45 in the physical plant conference room. And on Friday, the last day, 8 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. at the RSC conference room. Now, you can vote anytime you want from 8 o'clock in the morning on the 30th until noon on the 2nd. The voting will be open for that entire period of time. These times here are only for those that need access to a computer because you don't have it readily, or you need assistance logging in. These locations will be staffed by members of the Student Government Association who will assist you in logging in. They will not assist you in voting. They won't explain to you what's going on with it, but they will assist you in logging in if there are issues. The other thing that I would suggest highly is that if you haven't logged in for a while, find a computer, log in, make sure that your login ID and your password is correct so that you don't have struggles during these 3 days of voting where you have to get with HR or you have to get with the help desk to make sure that your login is working correctly. We're going to go ahead and leave this screen up. The other thing that I'd ask while we're having the panel presentation is that you remember to call 3030 if you would like to have the longevity proposal explained to you in person. Ellen or Mary will do that, and we'll do it personally for just you. So I'd like to go ahead and ask the panel members to come up, and we'll go ahead and open it up to questions for the rest of you. We've got mics going around. We've also got this broadcast live over the internet. So if you ask a question, please wait until you have a mic, because that will allow the people that are listening in over the internet to also hear. If you don't have the mic, they're not going to hear you.
Randy, this question's for you. Has any of the other universities' white papers been approved by the Board of Regents?
They have. KU's been approved and has been approved long-term. They've been doing this for about 10 years now. Last I heard, K-State has been approved, and I believe Fort Hays has been approved. I'm not sure about Pitt and Emporia.
Well, I know Fort Hays has been approved because I've got a copy of it. Maybe you could check into, there's nothing about their longevity pay in there.
That's their own determination. That has nothing to do with us.
Well, I knew when they were originally doing their white papers, they were asking for it.
Okay. I can't speak to Fort Hays or any of the other schools because that's the proposal that they came up with. It has nothing to do with our proposal.
Okay.
Good morning, guys. Where can people get their My WSU ID and password? Because those of us who don't mess with it every day don't keep that information handy.
Your My WSU ID is your Shocker ID number. The one single digit followed by 3 letters, single digit followed by 3 letters. If you don't have a Shocker card, you can get that from HR. Password is generated when you first log in, but you have to have your Sharp ID number. And that Sharp ID number, if you have a pay stub, is the one that's got like 6 zeros and a bunch of numbers after it, and you can get that from HR as well. Password, if you don't remember your password, you've logged in once before, you can get from the help desk.
Okay, so the help desk is where we go from there.
Help desk won't be able to get you your Sharp ID, but if you've logged in once before and you don't remember the password, the help desk is where you need to go.
Okay, are we going to have any workshops to help people get this done ahead of time?
No, but we're going to have computers set up. We don't train people how to do that. That's not our job. There are.
But HR is willing to assist anyone. You can come over anytime between 8 and 5 and we'll be available to help them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our last meeting's lasted almost 2 hours. We're only at 40 minutes here, guys. Well, not even that. We're at 20 minutes. I'm sorry, I looked at my watch wrong. So I know it's early in the morning, but we'd like to get everybody's questions answered. So please, if you have a question, don't be afraid to ask it. If you don't want to ask it, you can ask one of the ladies with the mics to ask it for you, and they'll do that. Jeannie.
I'm looking at the black sheet. What does it mean to move to USS? And it says there in the white portion that once we would become, or if we would become, Kansas Board of Regents employees, then WSU's president has the power to make decisions regarding salary and pay increases. And Dr. Barta, I just wondered, is that something that you are interested in doing? I apologize, but
No, that's fine. I appreciate the question. Yeah, one of the disadvantages where we are right now, from my perspective, is I have authority to give raises to faculty. I have authority to give raises to unclassified staff. But the legislature, the only people who have the right, with the governor, to give raises to you. And that creates, in my mind, a difference that hurts morale and makes people feel as though they're not valued. Because we're going to do raises as long as I can get authority from the regents to get the money that I need. I'm going to continue doing raises. We are underpaid as a university. I have detailed data on our average reimbursements from the state, our average reimbursements from tuition, our budget compared to peer groups that were selected based on schools doing similar kinds of work to ours. And our total funding is not very good comparatively. And so I'm looking at how do we move that needle so that we are more competitive. During my term here, I plan on continuing to move forward with raises to get our salaries more in line with, depending on the market you're in, more in line with the market. And that is going to take some time because I don't see being able to give a 10% raise in a given year. I don't think I can accept that. But we'll keep banging away at it every year. I plan this year on doing 3%.
We've had two separate online questions from two different users. The first one, will the white papers be approved by WSU administration before the vote at the end of the month?
I don't think that isn't really the way the process works. The way the process works is that the committee wrote a draft of the paper, putting their desires into a draft. I met with the committee, and I believe others were there meeting as well. Mary, I think, was at that meeting. And we talked with them about the things that we thought were reasonable and the things we thought were unreasonable. And there were some things, for example, that kept ties back to the old civil service system that, and it's one of those things you're either going to shift or you're not. It's not going to be a halfway shift. So we said that we didn't really think those were useful. They went back, took that into consideration, and brought back the proposal you see before you, which I approve and think is the proposal. Now, we have to turn that proposal into detailed policy, and that will take some time, and it will change as we go forward. And by that I mean that we're going to find some things that don't work, and then we'll go back to the classified Senate and we'll talk to them about these are things that don't work. How does this seem to you? And we'll continue to implement. But that proposal, as written, with the exception of the one line that was in error, I believe is correct and reasonable and something that we can implement.
The second question that came in, if raises are available and an employee misses out on the possible merit raise due to a supervisor failing to complete their review, will they be automatically given an increase or will they be out of luck?
Neither of those two things are correct. They won't be automatically given an increase, nor will they be out of luck. In that kind of a case, the person needs to file a grievance saying that the supervisor didn't do his or her job. And if the university finds that that's so, then we will take action appropriate on that supervisor, and we will make sure that the person gets a fair evaluation, and then we will give them a merit raise based on that evaluation. So that the intent is that individuals are treated fairly, not that there is anything automatic in anything that we do. So, but I want to make really clear to everybody here, the very first responsibility of a supervisor is to let folks know whether they're doing a good job or not. And so if a supervisor isn't doing the evaluations or isn't doing them appropriately, then that supervisor isn't doing his or her most basic job. And so that to me is very serious. I'm evaluated. I evaluate the vice presidents. I expect them to evaluate everybody within their divisions, and for that to continue through the entire organization. So this is something that we're going to continue improving and continue working on. But you have the right of appeal. You have the right of saying, wait a minute, this wasn't done properly, and we'll look at it, and if that's in fact true, we'll act on it.
In the case that something like that were to happen and we were to miss the raise under that unfortunate circumstance, would our raise be backdated to when we should have gotten it?
Yes. And I have done that already, by the way, in a grievance from a faculty member where the faculty member won and I backdated a year.
On the area of shift differential, I conduct a lot of the snow removal work on campus, and sometimes we work some people on some pretty strange shifts, but it's not a scheduled shift, and therefore I cannot give them shift differential. Ordinarily, I wouldn't bring this up. It seems sort of like there was a dearth of questions. So could there be something implemented where people that come in and work unusual hours can get shift differential under special circumstances like that?
Are you, Scott, referring to when you come in for inclement weather?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Currently, there is the inclement weather pay that employees receive if the president declared inclement weather. And those employees who do come in and have to work, they also receive extra straight pay for the hours that they come in to work. Is that what you're referring to? So they're receiving the inclement weather pay, which is 8 hours, their normal pay, but they're also going to be paid extra straight time for the hours that they actually come in and work.
That occurs during the circumstances of the university being closed,
Mm-hmm.
but there are occasions when we might have a crew of 1 or 2 people come in to maintain the campus streets during a time that's not an inclement weather event, but just snow that we want to manage and control before people get on campus.
And that would be first shift staff having to come in to do this?
Correct.
Yeah, I would think that would be something we should and could look at. I think that's a fair question, and just ask you if you would make note of that one, and let's see what we can do with that. That's fair.
My question, I don't know which one. By the way, my name's Rick Stevens. My question is on furloughs. Classic example, we have no control over what money is allocated for our maintenance budget. And it seems like every year we run out of money about a month and a half before Are we gonna be furloughed during that time because of lack of funds?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, furlough is not something that you do because a department runs out of operating budget. Furlough is based on the ability of the university to meet its payroll. And that is a very different question than whether a department chooses to spend whatever money it has in 6 months and then kind of makes do the next 6 months. So this is a payroll question having to do with, do we have the capacity to make payroll? And that is something that wouldn't affect a department. That's something that would affect the whole university, and it would be I would call university-wide meetings. We would have long discussions about where we are. I'd lay out the budget on our overhead so everybody could see it. That's not an individual departmental issue.
My question is, would the tuition assistance be just for undergraduate, or would that also include graduate credit?
The tuition assistant includes both graduate and undergraduate courses, and that's the current policy.
We have an online question, and then I was handed a couple of questions as well. If the USS system is voted in, when would it become, or excuse me, when would it come into effect?
It would become effective the first of the fiscal year, this year.
And then the questions that were handed to me. First one, will we be allowed to earn comp time for use at holiday shutdown?
If you come into work and physically work 40 hours during the holiday close down, then of course, yes, you would earn the comp time.
I think she's asking for use during holiday shutdown.
So similar to what it is currently, where you can work like veterans.
Yeah, it's the same. We're not changing that at all.
And then that follows into the second question, looking for a little clarification. I know we talked about Veterans Day yesterday. Who is considered non-essential employees when it comes to Veterans Day holiday?
I think that's a decision that has to be made by the departmental chairperson that would make that determination, who the essential employees are and the non-essential employees.
And then we had one more online. I work for a grant-funded program with current federal, thank you, sequestration. Where will raises come from with that?
Anytime you run a grant, the funding comes from that grant. And so the grant itself can rearrange the funds, or sometimes, depending on the acuity of the grant writer, raises will be put in on an assumption of raises. So I think generally that is not, there's nothing different about that in this proposal. If you are on a special purpose funding like a grant, you're paid out of that grant, and raises have to come from the grant itself.
Hi. If there comes a time when you start considering layoffs and furloughs, are you also going to consider outsourcing too?
Not really. Generally, when we are moving toward outsourcing, we're moving toward something that we haven't done before. So, for example, we didn't have a large marketing department to allow us to go after freshmen at the level we needed to go after freshmen. To build such a department would have cost me about twice as much or 3 times as much a year as hiring a company to do it. And there was just no justification for spending that much money when I could hire it a lot cheaper. What I generally have found, I've been at this a long time now, and what I've generally found is that when you outsource things that you already have, you lose more in morale than you ever gain in savings. And so I tend not to go down that road. It just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel like it helps the university in the end. The differentials in costs are usually quite minimal. The differentials in performance can be staggering, and the impact that it has on the other folks isn't worth it.
Got another. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question related to longevity, and it's if you work for them for the university before you left and you come back, how does that work?
Any service time that you worked previously in a benefits eligible position would be counted towards your length of service with the state. So that time would be counted if it was in a benefits eligible position.
That's no different.
Yeah, that won't change.
Just keeping with longevity, we've got another longevity question. If the effective date is later than a person's anniversary date and hasn't been voted out of the legislature, would a person still get the one-time bonus, or will it go with the white paper proposal?
You mean between, I think you're referring, assuming that question refers to between now and the end of the year.
That's how I read it.
Okay, can you repeat that? Yours, the current longevity pay?
Yeah, this is on the current longevity. If the effective date is later than the person's anniversary date,
Right.
And the longevity has not been voted out by the legislature, would a person still get the one-time bonus, or will we go with what the white paper says?
If the white papers is approved by the K board, then we would go with the white papers proposal.
Right. In between, however, I would assume that whatever the current policy is will be implemented.
I think what they're meaning is if this were to happen in the next couple of weeks,
Right,
they get
right.
the longevity now versus the roll.
They would receive their longevity pay for this current fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would go with what the policy is today.
Right. The white paper proposes for the fiscal year 15.
So anybody's longevity pay after July will still get it, or is it going to go?
No, if this is approved, the fiscal year starts on June 8th. So it has to
So it won't
be
be
on.
2015, it'll be 2014, right?
No, fiscal year
Okay.
2015, which started on June 8th. the
This is
payroll.
always confusing to me
Yeah.
too. And it's a fiscal year start July 1, so the 15 date starts, whatever the official date is in Kansas, starts then. So I always think in terms of academic years and calendar years, and Mary Herron keeps reminding me that no, we're talking about. So yeah, it starts when the new budget year starts.
Randy, you made the statement earlier that there's two bills that are going to pass that are going to take away the longevity pay. What are those bill numbers, and when will they pass?
I can't tell you when they're going to pass, you know that.
Okay, so it is just speculation in your
They're on
personal
the-
opinion,
they're on
not
the
a matter
floor.
of fact, correct?
They're on the floor,
Uh-huh.
and all I'm saying is that they're on the floor, and that there is a chance they could, there's a chance they couldn't.
Right, but there's hundreds of other bills on the floor.
2750, House Bill 2750 is one, the other one is House Bill 2325.
Okay. But we are clear that's speculation and not
Sure it
a
is.
fact of the matter statement. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because you have that in here as, that it is ending on 6/30/14 in the middle here, so that's really not entirely accurate.
Okay, what this says in the middle is that if you go with the white paper
Oh,
and
okay.
this is approved, then it will end on that date.
Okay, another one from online. If we move to USS, will we be considered a state employee when transferring to another state agency?
Yes, your time is still considered, you're still a state employee, whether we go with transferring over to becoming a K-Board employee, you still consider a state employee. And you can continue to apply for a civil service state position.
I'm sorry, somebody mentioned something earlier about Veterans Day, and that had been discussed yesterday, but I don't know about everybody here. I wasn't here yesterday. Well, is there a change there? Is it something in the white papers that I missed?
No, I don't think so.
No, there is no change.
There's no change.
Also, for those of you that weren't here yesterday or Friday, this is all online. If you want to see and hear what was heard yesterday or Friday, you can go to the ASC website and you can see the recordings and hear the questions and the answers that were presented yesterday and Friday. Emily.
Hi, it's me again. Just for clarification purposes, it sounds like you just told me that my next longevity benefit is not going to occur. My anniversary date is in October. Is that correct?
That is
If the
correct.
white paper passes, that is correct.
Right, what would happen would be your longevity would be put into your base as shown in the example, and then would be the basis for any salary increases.
Frankie, this is to back up what you said about, we can apply for classified positions and civil service positions. Once we've transferred out of that, will we lose any preferential treatment? Or, I mean, any, you know what I mean? Or will we just be like an individual coming off the street to apply for that job, or will we have the same preference that we had to transfer within the agency?
Unclassified employees like myself, we're also state employees, so if I choose to apply for a state civil service position today, I could do so. So that's not going to have any impact on once you become a K-Board employee.
Okay.
And no, you're not receiving preferential treatment, but you can apply.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
It's only back up.
Okay, I'm just flipping through the white papers, and I have one quick question. Now, I haven't been here 10 years, as an example. So is this saying that anybody that was hired between '04 and '08 will get longevity, or do I wait until on my 10-year anniversary date?
We will go ahead and roll the $400 that would be coming to you into your base pay.
As is the time this is approved?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I'm just curious. We're the last university to vote on this, and if we all decide that this is not a direction we want to go, is this the last we'll hear of this, and we'll just be out standing by ourselves, or what goes on from there?
The way the bill is written, it allows us to continue to pursue it if we so desire. It also allows either a small section or the entire university to go. So if there was one group that decided they wanted to pursue it with the president's permission, they could go ahead and hold a vote within their group and make the move by themselves. Did that answer your question?
Thank you for waving. It's sometimes hard to see.
Okay, if we have some that don't want to go and the vote is no this time, how soon would it be before we could have a vote again for the ones that might want to change over?
I don't think that's really something we would understand yet. If the vote were to go against leaving civil service, then I think it would be up to the individual units then to determine what they wanted to do. And we would ask those units to let me know what their intent was, and then we try to, in an orderly fashion, schedule so that those units could do the vote that they need to do. But I can't give you an exact time, and we'd have to work with HR and make sure that we're doing things in a proper and reasonable way so that people don't feel like they're being railroaded one way or another. So it would be, we do it in a, within higher ed, it's like called a timely manner, meaning simply that we will go at it in a way that's systematic and reasonable.
If this isn't the final chapter, the final whatever,
I guess, why are we asked to vote on something that is not final? It's just an idea.
Well, it's much more than an idea. The only things of which I am aware that have been changed is there was one line that was in there that was in error. And then yesterday, in response to a question, I agreed to remove the word consideration. To the best of my knowledge, those are the only things that are different and that would be different in any final paper. I'm unaware of any other changes. I certainly would be very uncomfortable making major changes in this at this time. This is what you've been hearing. This is what you've been reviewing. This is what you've been considering. And with the exception of a modification that came as a result of a question from the audience and simply an error in a typographical error, I don't see it changing.
Didn't he just say earlier that the final will be available for us before we can actually vote?
The changes that have been brought up during these last meetings will be posted online. There'll be an email sent out, a flyer sent out so that you all can read it. But if you turn to page 5 under compensation and pay, I can tell you right now what the changes will be. And they will be the only changes at this point. If you look at the very first line, or the very first section where it says salary increases, it says the recommendation would be for annual increases to be considered. We're going to take out to be considered and change that the annual increases will be at a level equivalent to those given to unclassified administration and professional staff. Then further down on that same page under vacation, the very last line in that paragraph states allowances will be made for selling hours back when vacation is maxed out. That line, that entire sentence has been struck because that's not what we're going to be doing. Those are the only two changes in what you have in your hand right now that are going to be made. Everything else will be exactly as it is right now.
I will also tell you, once this hearing is completed, I would be very uncomfortable with major changes. That would not. That's not the way we do business.
The only other change was Friday's meeting. Someone pointed out that they did not understand the hourly 176, 304, and the 240. That was put in, so that people get that. It hasn't been put in yet. That would be one of the changes that was made, that it would just be a clarification. You can earn 176 hours of vacation per year. You can bank 304, or, and then what you get paid out when you leave as a termination, or what you would be paid out as a retired person or retiree. That's all that's changed. That was asked to be clarified.
Yeah, and those are clarifications that came up as a result of the hearings.
Right.
We have one clarification question. If we were to move to USS, would we still be state employees, or how would that look?
Yes. You would remain as state employees, as I stated earlier, as far as our unclassified employees are. We're all state employees. Our paycheck comes from the state of Kansas.
Hello again. Regarding maximum vacation accrual, I've hit that ceiling several times, and I've often thought that I would gladly just continue accruing vacation and let it roll over into the shared leave program. I think that's something that should be implemented because, well, shared leave is a good program too.
And that is correct, Scott. For any of you that have reached your maximum hours of accrual of 304 hours of vacation, you can donate those hours to an individual that has been approved for shared leave. That hasn't changed. That's no change. You can continue to do so. Same thing with your sick leave.
Would that then be on an ongoing basis as long as you have a maximal number of vacation hours?
That is correct, yes.
So there's not an existing pool for whoever needs it?
There has never been a pool. The shared leave donation is for a specific individual that we give those donated hours to. We do not, HR does not maintain a pool.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, on the white paper subject, where we were talking about this isn't the final draft, but we're hoping to have, we should have a final draft before the vote. But somebody said earlier that that technically is still not a 100% guarantee until after the vote goes through. How long would it be before we know what the actual voted white papers will be and what exactly it is that we'll have implemented?
Right, I think, I'm not sure that I agree that with the way this has been phrased. If we have a final cleaned up white paper that has the cleanup we've talked through here, that is what you're voting on, and that is what I've agreed to. So the only things that could occur, to the best of my understanding, would be as we try to implement this in process and procedure. If something turns out not to be workable as it is written, then we would go back to the unclassified Senate and say, this seems to be a problem, give us your best indication of how we can solve this in a way that is best for our employees. But the paper you have, once it is finally cleaned up, and those are modest cleanup, that is the paper that I've accepted.
So basically, once this is cleaned up and finalized before the vote, as far as you're saying, this is the implementation that will be put forth after the vote goes through?
Correct.
Okay.
And the only reason that would not be so, two reasons could be possible. One is as we actually implement it, we find an error or a problem, in which case we would go back to your representatives and tell you that and ask them to give us the best solution to the problem. And we would work that through with them. The only other alternative is if the regents found something in it that was just they couldn't live with. There's nothing in there that I believe rises to a level the regents would have any concern about it. But I can't speak for 9 people, but if that were the case, I would bring it back to you and then we would look at what we do. But I don't see that happening.
Okay, we have a question from the internet. It's in regards to the question earlier about preferential hiring rights. The white papers propose bumping within all university departments. Classified Civil Service Acts allows bumping within state agencies, but bumping rights would no longer extend to off-university state universities, correct?
Correct.
Also, regarding Randy's response that groups could vote to move to USS if the university does not vote to do it, please clarify what is meant by groups.
Let me try that one, Frank, and then I'll come back. And if I miss something, come back into it. Generally speaking, we have known departments, we have known divisions, we have known areas that are organized in the university, and either a department, a cluster of departments, a particular area of the university could ask to have the opportunity to vote separately. But this would be not a matter of saying, well, you know, my best bud Bill and I want to do it. It would be a matter of saying that it has to be a recognized, organized unit of the university that came back and said, wait a minute, we don't agree with this conclusion. We want to go ahead and vote to move separately.
One more question from another user. If this passes, how long is it expected for the Board of Regents to approve it?
I would think very quickly. If we want to start by July 1, if this passes, I would try to get it on their June board meeting.
Clear off that seat next to you, Esau, would you?
Yeah, this is.
When we take the vote, will our vote and our ID and stuff, will that be somehow kept private? Or will Human Resources or any other staff have access to see which way we voted?
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong here. The way it was explained to me, and this came from David Wright, once you log in, your ID goes into one database. When you click on the link to vote, that response will go into a different database that is completely separate, that does not record your user ID. So your user ID and your vote are in two separate databases. They are not recorded together, and the database that contains your vote is completely separate with no indication of who's voting which way. Is that correct? Okay, we've gotten almost to an hour, so we're a little bit better than we were about 40 minutes ago. Is there any more questions?
Yeah, regarding this, if the vote doesn't go to university support staff, will that go the other way? If there's people that want to remain civil service, will we be able to get a group together to vote that back in?
No, it's a one-way move. In other words, if the employees move, everybody moves. If the employees choose to stay, the law allows for individual units to make a determination, but not the other way.
Do all classified people vote, or are those on probation exempt from it, or do they all get to?
The way the law reads is it's everybody votes. Doesn't matter if you're on probation or not.
The only other thing I've got to put out there, someone asked if you could clarify one more time what that page will look like when they log in to vote.
The first thing you'll do is log into My WSU. If you look at the tabs across the top, one of those tabs says Faculty Staff. Click on the Faculty Staff tab. On the left-hand side, one of the lines over there will say Tools. Click on the Tools tab.
Randy, they don't click on the Tools tab, it's just underneath the Tools.
Oh, it's underneath the Tools?
Yeah, there'll be Tools, and there's a whole lot of links listed underneath there, and it'll be the very top link.
So it will be underneath the Tools section on the Faculty Staff tab. And it will say Classified Staff / USS Vote. Click on that and it'll take you to the page to vote on.
Yeah, I will close. I should have done this before, but just so that everybody knows, in case you're not reading the student newspaper or hearing otherwise, our applications for next fall's freshman class is up about 90%. We have admitted 42% more students than we did last year. And registrations have started off very strong, so we're keeping our fingers crossed that things really are looking like we're moving to a growth mode. Our housing applications are also up about 40%. And so we don't know whether that's because we have this nifty new residence hall or we really have that many more students coming. But the new residence hall, we are in a position where we have, it is pretty much spoken for, and we have about 400 beds left total on campus available, so we will still obviously be able to house students. And students who want to go into the new hall, if we are in fact full, we will put them on a waiting list to get into the new hall, and we know that some kids will not like their roommates and others will change their mind and all the normal things. But just to let you know where we are, it does look as though right now, I think our freshman class is probably going to be 15% or more larger than last year's class. So we anticipate some good movement that way. One of the things I've said at the other two hearings, and I want to repeat here in closing, it's really important that you vote your conscience. If you believe it is in your best interest to move to university service, you should vote to move. If you feel it is in your best interest not to, you should vote not to. You're very important to this university. We can't operate without you, and we will have a good relationship and try to continue improving that relationship regardless of how you vote. The future of the university, I think, is very bright. I'm excited about where we're going, and I think the community is excited about it. So thank you for paying close attention to this. Thank you for all the work that you do. I do understand how important you are to the university. I've told the other groups that when I first came to Wichita, and I moved 800 miles out here from Ohio, didn't know anybody, and one of the people who befriended me early on was the lady who maintained Neff Hall, a woman named Mrs. Molman. Some of you have been around here a while may remember her. But she was a very kind woman and would chat with me in the evening when I was in my office working. She did exactly the same thing with my wife. My wife was a student here and treated her the same way. So I do have a sense of what you do beyond your job. If those of you who drive around the campus, if you see me and I catch your eye, many times I'll wave at you. And it is simply to let you know I know you're there. I care that you're there, and I care about what you're doing. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for being here and taking this as seriously as you obviously have. And good luck with the rest of the year. Thank you.
We'll still be up here for a few minutes if there's questions you had that you didn't want to ask in front of the group, so please feel free to come down and talk if you need to. Thank you. President, thank you for your time.